Hello, this video goes with Lab 13. Lab 13 is called the organization of the skeleton. The organization of the skeleton can be divided into two parts. We've got the axial portion of the skeleton, which is made up of the head, the neck, the thoracic bones, and the vertebral column. Then we have the appendicular skeleton, which is made up of the limbs, the arms, the legs, and then the bones that attach the arms and the legs to the trunk. So the first bone is the skull. The skull is made up of the facial bones and the cranium. The next bones are the bones of the vertebral column. The vertebral column is made up of vertebra. At the base of the vertebra are fused bones, which make up the sacrum, and your tailbone down here, which is called your coccyx. Then we have your thoracic bones, the area of your chest. So we've got this bone, which is called the manubrium, the body, and the xiphoid, and they make up the sternum. That's where the ribs attach. So each one of these is a rib. Then we'll go over the bones separately over on the table. We'll start out with the skull. We'll learn areas that are found on the inside of the skull. This is what the inside of the skull looks like. We'll also learn that there's air-filled cavities that are found in the bones of the skull. Those are called sinuses. We can look at an exploded skull and look at the individual bones that make up the exploded skull. The little cracks where the one bone attaches to another is called a suture. So you can see those pretty good in the exploded skull. We'll cover these bones independently in the skull lab, which we'll do next week. Here are the bones of the vertebra independently. This is called C1. This is the first cervical vertebra. This is called C2. That's the second cervical vertebra. The cervical vertebra have a specific look. They tend to be smaller. They have little foramen on the side that the other vertebrae don't have. As we go down the vertebral column, this would be a thoracic vertebra. It tends to get thicker as we go. This is a lumbar vertebra. So you can see as we go from the neck down to the lower back, the vertebrae get thicker, don't they? This is the sacral bone, and you can see how it's attached to the hip bone. There's the coccyx. These are the bones of the sternum. That's the manubrium. It looks to me like it's a Superman plate, right, on Superman's chest. And this is called the body of the sternum, and I don't have an independent xiphoid process. And here's a rib. Each one of these bones we're going to learn independently in different labs, and we'll learn the parts of them. So today it's just about looking at the bones independently. Now we're going to go over the appendicular bones on the skeleton. I'll go from superior to inferior. So we'll start out with the arm. First of all, we've got the bones of the shoulder. This is called the clavicle. I remember in high school basketball, one of my teammates fell down and broke her clavicle bone. As I go to the posterior side of the skeleton, we've got the scapula bone. That's the shoulder blade. We've got the humerus. That's the upper arm bone. We've got the lower arm bones. Now, our skeleton needs to be in anatomical position. So I need to make sure that his thumb is facing laterally, right? So laterally on the skeleton would be the radius. The radius is the bone that goes with the thumb. The ulnar bone Sorry, it's hard to make this video by myself. The ulnar bone. Let's see if I can see it better on this side. There we go. Here we go. So the ulnar bone is medially. So we've got radius laterally, ulna medially. Then we have the wrist bones. The wrist bones are the carpal bones. Then we have the hand bones. These bones here, these are the metacarpals. Then these guys out here are called the phalanges. They're your finger bones. Now we go to the bone of our hip bone. Our hip bone is called a coxal bone. And we've got 2 coxal bones that make up your pelvis. This is your upper thigh. So that's your femur. That's your femur bone. We've got your lower leg right here, which is made up the bigger bone, which is where all the weight of your body is put. This is called the tibia. And then laterally, we've got a very thin, fine bone right here, which does not carry any weight. That's called the fibula. So tibia is medial, fibula is lateral. We've got the bones of the foot. So remember, these are going to be your tarsals. Your tarsals, T, go with your toes, T, right? Carpals go with your hands, so don't get those confused. We have your ankle bones. Your ankle bones are called your tarsal bones. Those are the cuboid type bones here of the ankle. We've got the metaTARSALS, which are your foot bones. And then we have your phalanges, which are your toe bones. I'm going to go over to the table and show you these independently. This is your pelvis with your sacrum attached. We've got 2 coxal bones. This is a coxal bone that's been disarticulated. That means taken apart. So in another lab to come, you'll have to know the parts of the coxal bone. This is a foot. So here is our ankle bones, which collectively are known as tarsals. We've got our metatarsals, and we've got our phalanges. This is our thigh bone that's been disarticulated from the skeleton. So this is your femur. This is the tibia. This is the big bone. That's medial on your lower limb. That carries all the weight. And this is your fibula. This is the most non-distinct bone of the body, in my opinion. So that's the fibula. Now we'll go to our upper limb bones. Okay, first of all is the clavicle. It's a flat S-shaped bone. The scapula. It's a flat bone. This is your shoulder blade called your scapula. It's your shoulder blade, right? Looks like that. This is your humerus. So this is part of the humerus. It's the head of the humerus that makes up your shoulder joint. And this is the distal end of your humerus that makes up your elbow joint. This is the ulna. I like the ulna because when you hold it, this is the joint that makes up the hinge joint of your elbow. It's shaped like a U, so that tells you it's U for ulna. So this would be the proximal end of the ulna. And this would be the distal end of the ulna, which would make articulate with your wrist joint, right? Now it articulates with your elbow. This is the radius. The radius The proximal part articulates at your elbow. The distal articulates with your wrist. So this is your ulna, which would be medially. That would be on your pinky side. This is the radius, which is laterally. That goes with your thumb. We've got the metaCARPALS, wrist bones, tarsals, hand bones, and phalanges, finger bones. So that ends the video. Here's our anatomy room. This is where I have everything. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a good day. Bye.